A one-on-one sit-down with five-star number one running back LSU commitment Harlem Berry. It's up next. It's Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thrilled to have you aboard with us here. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free, available wherever you get great podcasts, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe, rate us, leave a review if you're on YouTube, smash that like button, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Lot to get to today. ESPN put out their list of the top 100 players in college football for 2024. 3 Tigers on the list. Who did they miss? Got some thoughts there. We'll get to know defensive tackle commit Dilan Battle. Had a chance to visit with his high school coach, and you are really going to want to hear what he has to say about how Bo Davis recruited Dilan Battle. That's coming up shortly. But kind of a recruiting day unintentional. LSU practiced on Thursday, but no media availability. Tigers will practice again Friday. No media availability. We will get availability on Saturday. Then, interestingly enough, recovery day Sunday, no access Monday or Tuesday. We get to watch Wednesday, no access Thursday, Friday. And then they scrimmage in Tiger Stadium with full media access. So after Saturday, there's only 2 more media availabilities after so much access. Remember what we talked about yesterday? Brian Kelly talked about this weekend kind of as moving day, as he put it, sort of a golf analogy. And it's pretty clear. He don't want us in there because they are making personnel decisions. They are installing. They are doing things now they don't want us to see. And I don't blame him one iota. But I think that moving day analogy was apropos. So we'll make the most of the opportunities we get to see the Tigers. Only 3 more practice opportunities will be there. We'll let you know how it goes. So in the meantime, had a chance to actually dig into some recruiting today. And Harlem Berry is a guy that every LSU fan by now should know. He's at the St. Martin Episcopal down in Metairie. He's the number 1 running back in the country. He's a 5-star, the number 20 overall player at any position. And he, like Bryce Underwood, committed early to LSU. He is locked in to the Tigers as well. Had a chance on my radio show to visit with Harlem Berry, and I wanted you to hear an excerpt from that interview. And I started with why a guy who's a 5-star who had every offer in America, could go wherever he wants, why he would commit so early in his process.
I really had my mind made up. Like, I've been wanting to go to LSU since I heard of LSU. So Leonard Fournette playing all them type of players. But once I really had my mind made up and was like, I saw what I wanted to see, I was like, yeah, this is where I need to be at. I just went with it, and I was like, I need to commit. So I had my senior season to myself. I don't have to worry about no recruiting visits, no coaches, this and that. So I just wanted to make that decision early.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of LSU people and coaches as well that are thrilled that you did. What was it like being recruited by Frank Wilson?
It was great. Me and Coach Frank had gotten real close in the past years since he's been recruiting me. So it was a great connection. Coach Frank, he came. They went at me hard. They were coming after me. So I just felt like Coach Frank would do the best.
Yeah, he's got a reputation of doing that, especially in New Orleans, man. It's like if there's a guy in New Orleans, generally Coach Frank, reels him in. What is that? What is it about him and in the New Orleans area that makes him so effective, man?
I definitely think because he lived in New Orleans and he has so many connections. Coach Frank is known around New Orleans, so it just makes it easier for him to adapt, get to know the player better, get to know the type of player that you are. And everything. So,
Harlem Berry is our guest. Hey, let's talk about the type of player that you are. Over the summer when you and Bryce Underwood, you're playing that 7-on-7 competition with our buddy Ryan Clark, of course, coach you guys. Remember, RC came on and said, "Man, look, if you just played wide receiver, you'd be a 5-star wide receiver." What was that experience like, getting to go play the National 7-on-7 tournament with so many other great players and having the showing that you did?
Oh, it was fun, especially because like over the summer I was working on running back, but I was trying to get in the receiving back type of thing. So being able to work on that and then go produce and go put on a show, especially with Bryce as such a great quarterback he is, it's just a fun experience and great way to build a connection between me and him.
Is that is that something that you just have naturally, the receiving ability? Because I mean, we're looking at these highlights, Harlem. I mean, you look like a receiver, man, not a running back.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of a gift from God, but I had definitely had like tweaked it up a little bit, get the quality a little bit better, over the summer. But I definitely think that would be a gift from God that honestly I'm just thankful for. Yeah. I could play that type of position too.
Harlem Berry is our guest. By the way, Harlem is going to be holding his first autograph signing in Baton Rouge a week from Saturday, August the 24th. It's going to be over with my guy Bruce Fuselier at AJ Sports Cards on Drusilla. It's going to be from 1 to 3 p.m. We'll give you those details again. But again, a week from Saturday, you can meet Harlem, get an autograph. Be a really cool thing as he's entering his senior year of high school now. Let me, while we stay on the point of playing with Bryce, what is that relationship like with Bryce? Obviously, he's up in Michigan, but I would assume you guys have a chance to talk and visit from time to time. But what's that relationship like with Bryce Underwood?
Me and Bryce pretty cool. Definitely seen him on visits, talked to him through social media and stuff like that. But we building a connection to make something great at LSU. So it's definitely been great.
Who's the next guy in the class y'all are targeting, man? Like, who are y'all really pressuring to try to get in the class?
We just got Phillip that decommitted from Michigan.
Yep.
Definitely. I can't think off the top of my head.
That's all right, man.
Thank you off the top of my head. But, whoever LSU recruiting, we coming hard. So
all of them, no doubt. Hey, as you enter your senior year, by the way, I'm looking at your On3 profile. They got you at 5'10", 182. Is that current? Is that about what you are right now?
I got up to 185, but yeah, it's pretty much the same, yeah.
Do you think that's about where you're going to stay? Like, sometimes whenever you're a kid, doctors will project your growth chart to see how tall you're going to be or something. Like, do you want to get bigger? Do you want to put on more size, or are you comfortable there about that 185 range?
Definitely, I'm definitely going to get bigger, especially playing in the SEC. I'm not a power back, so I don't want to be too big, but I'm definitely going to try to put on some more weight to be able to take those hits from those big old guys in the SEC.
Or better yet, just don't take the hits from them, man. Just
dodge
them. Right? Man, when you're a 5-star and you're the number one player in the state, the number one running back in the country, a top 20 player overall. I mean, I'd imagine when you're that different. Obviously, so much probably comes natural. It's not to say you don't work hard, but what would you say that you and your coaches want to work on in your senior season on your game?
Definitely, getting used to staying in between the tackles. Because, high school and college is two different things. It's way easier to, run outside, make a lot of guys miss getting the end zone. But in college, that's definitely way harder than you can make it seem in high school. So that's definitely something I'm definitely trying to work on this season. And then, just motioning out the backfield, going line up at receiver. Because I did it in 7-on-7, but, we put the pads on and it's tackle. That's a little different. So definitely working on that, too.
A little bit of a chat with a 5-star running back, LSU commit, Harlem Berry. Really engaging young guy. I actually asked him about, he mentioned being from New Orleans and loving watching Leonard Fournette. I asked him his favorite Leonard Fournette moment. He didn't hesitate. He said, when Leonard Fournette bulldozed the kid from Ole Miss on the sideline back in that 2016 season, a moment we all well remember. It's been memed and gifted a whole bunch, but it was impressionable to a young Harlem Berry, who'll be the next great LSU running back. Harlem Berry will be part of this 2025 LSU class. Another guy that will be part of LSU's 2025 class is Dilan Battle. And I had a chance to catch up. He's out of Arlington, Texas. His high school coach is Robert DeSanto, and I had a chance to catch up with Robert DeSanto to ask about Dilan Battle. Not only Dilan Battle, but Bo Davis's recruitment of Dilan Battle. You're going to love what he has to say about Bo Davis. Don't you move. It's next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You know, I love sports. I know you do as well. I love them so much. Never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. Olympics are over now as well. And the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer. As a matter of fact, I'm going to punch up that FanDuel app right now and see what they got rolling right now. Might have a play on the Orioles tonight. I don't know at the time you're watching this if they won or not, but would love to hit on that. How about this? New customers bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. You got preseason action. Second half of the WNBA season's getting underway with a 30% profit boost on same-game parlays. Check it out over at FanDuel. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Check out FanDuel.com. So as LSU continues to build this 2025 recruiting class, the latest commitment is Dilan Battle. So Dilan Battle is a 3-star defensive lineman out of Mansfield Timberview. That's in Arlington, Texas. And he had offers from a lot of big-name schools. The list is extensive. All the Texas schools are in there. TCU and SMU, they're in the area. Arkansas, Alabama, Texas A&M, Texas, Michigan, Southern Cal, Penn State, Oregon, Auburn, Miami, Oklahoma, Florida. Some big-time programs in on Dilan Battle. He's a 6'3", a 300-pound interior defensive lineman. And I had a chance to catch up with Dilan Battle's high school coach, Robert DeSanto. And I did talk to him about Dilan, the football player, which you'll hear in a second. Also talk to him about Dilan, the person, which I always find that interesting because so often whenever you're going to make the type of commitment as a program to bringing someone in, the quality of person is almost as important as the quality of player. Look, you got to have physical ability to play at LSU, no doubt. But as much as Brian Kelly has stressed things like culture, you want good people. And one of the things Robert DeSanto said was about Dilan Battle, sort of effervescent personality, all the energy, how positive he is to be around, which is a great sign. But we also talked about Bo Davis. And I thought this interaction was fascinating because Bo Davis was recruiting Dilan Battle at Texas. And Robert DeSanto told a story about how as soon as Bo Davis got the LSU job, it wasn't long before Bo was knocking on Robert DeSanto's door.
As soon as Bo left Texas, I was shocked when he knocked on my door one day, and I said, I didn't realize Dilan was that high on LSU's board. And his exact words were, I don't know if he's high on their board. I really hadn't even been to the office yet, but he's high on my board. And he's a guy that I want no matter where I'm at. So I think that relationship that they have is definitely something that played favors for not only Dilan, Bo, but the LSU fan base in itself.
Ask yourself this question. Bo Davis goes to Texas, and when he showed up there, they didn't have a single defensive player drafted. By the time he leaves, he's got a first-round defensive lineman and a second-round defensive lineman in the same draft. Do you trust Bo Davis's ability to evaluate defensive line talent, and develop it? If you do, then you should be excited about Dilan Battle. You're going to hear more about Dilan Battle, the football player, here in just a quick second. But look, Jakeem Stewart's the number one player in a country out of St. Aug, defensive lineman for the class of 2026. Bo Davis already has 3 defensive tackles committed for the class of 2025. And Bo Davis is just different. It's very evident. And I asked Robert DeSanto why Bo Davis was different. And for context, remember, these high school coaches, y'all, if you're not familiar, these high school coaches, they have college coaches and recruiters coming through their office constantly. when the dead periods are lifted and coaches can be on the road, they're visiting all the time. We have a prospect like that with 24 offers. It's a never-ending parade of college coaches coming through. And by the way, Dilan Battle is not the only Division I athlete that Mansfield Timberview has. Robert DeSanto told me he's got another kid on his team who just committed to Utah. So he's pretty used to having college coaches come through to recruit his kids. And I asked him, what made Bo Davis different?
I think Bo has the respect of not only the players that he recruits, but the parents that he comes in contact with, because he keeps it real with them. He tells them the truth. Not only is he there to tell them exactly what's going to happen. I'm not going to sell you, a bill of goods, but I'm also going to tell you I'm going to take care of your young man, and I'm going to do all the things that I need to do to make him a better man in the end. And it's not just about football. I mean, obviously those guys, they get paid a lot of money, and winning games is very, very important as a college football coach. But I think with him and what sold Dilan and sold Dylan's family is that they felt like Bo Davis was going to help him continue to grow up and mature and become the young man that he needed to be.
High praise for Bo Davis. And you can understand why, when you hear that from a high school coach, why Bo Davis is not only widely considered one of the best defensive line technician coaches in America, but one of the best recruiters as well. So LSU's getting a really good kid in Dilan Battle. Clearly, you got to be pumped about having Bo Davis. But what about Dilan Battle, the player? What about the college football prospect that LSU offered and got committed? That's one thing Robert DeSanto was able to speak glowingly about with his prize pupil.
I don't know if I've ever seen a big man with his size. Now, we've had guys that are, a little squattier bodied, heavy just like Dilan, but, just not that height and just all the tools that are as quick as he is. I mean, you're talking about a big man that is 300 to 310 and 6'3", that is like cat quick. I mean, all big men, they're not going to be like blazing fast down the field, but you put Dilan in a 5 to 10 yard box, and there, I don't care what skill guy it is, there ain't going to be very many that can beat him. His hands, his feet, everything are cat quick. In fact, we work both sides of the ball here, because we believe it or not, as big of a high school we are, we don't have the depth that we have on both sides of the football. Dilan can actually catch the ball very well. And
how about that? Plays tight end also. 6'3", 300-pound interior defensive lineman who can also play tight end. Cat quick. Yeah. I think he's got the skill set that Bo Davis is looking for. It was interesting when I asked Coach DeSanto, what is the thing that Dilan Battle needs to work on in his senior year? And interestingly enough, he said, look, throughout his time there at Mansfield Timberview, he's largely been a nose that's just eaten up double teams. And they finally have enough size and depth to where they're going to try to be able to move him to get him in a lot more one-on-one situations. So he'll be able to work on his interior pass rush move instead of just being a space eater. Maybe one of the reasons also why you don't see Dilan Battle at the top of a lot of recruiting rankings, because maybe he doesn't pop with the statistics if he's not out there making plays, if he's just eating double teams all the time. Well, if this is a season where he gets to actually work on being an interior pass rusher and stuff the stat sheet, maybe you start to see that star ranking increase a little bit as well. By the way, I asked Coach DeSanto about Dilan Battle being an early enrollee. He said that at Mansfield Timberview, they do allow students to graduate early, and that Battle did take some courses over the summer to try to get himself in line for that potentially, but didn't have an answer as to whether or not Dilan Battle would be able to enroll early at LSU and go through spring ball in this coming spring. But stay posted. LSU seems to have gotten a really good one there in Dilan Battle. LSU's got a bunch of really good ones already on the roster. The College Football Top 100 player list for 2024, courtesy of ESPN.com. That's been released. Who's on it? Who was snubbed? I got some thoughts next. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. The ESPN.com college football top 100 prospects list was released on Thursday, and there were 3 LSU Tigers on it. Maybe not surprisingly that the highest ranked was Will Campbell, who's number 6 overall on the list, 1 spot behind Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden. Right tackle Emory Jones was number 47, so both of LSU's bookend tackles on this list of the top 100 prospects in the country. The lone LSU defender to make the list, of course, Harold Perkins, who came in at number 14. So Campbell 6, Perkins 14, and then Emory Jones at 47. If you're wondering how ESPN came up with this, they had 5 of their college football experts who made these lists over 4 rounds of voting and discussion. So ultimately, this is where they settled. And look, it's one very subjective list. It's these 5 people's opinion. And how do you really gauge who's a better player based on a quarterback or a defensive end or an offensive tackle? For what it's worth, Tennessee defensive end James Pierce came in number 1 overall on the list. Oddly, Harold Perkins through 2 seasons has more tackles for loss than does James Pierce, but in any event. The other SEC schools represented, Georgia had 6 players on the list, Alabama with 5, Texas had 4, Ole Miss joined LSU with 3, and then Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Texas A&M had 2 apiece. Ohio State led all schools with 8 selections on the list. I don't think anybody would disagree with the LSU players that made the list. There's kind of a question of who might be omitted, but I would like to point out there's 134 FBS schools, programs, 134. You know, you could look at 134 times 85, the 85-man scholarship limit, but I wouldn't even go that wide. I would narrow it down to say, just look at the 22 starters. What if you went to 134 times the 22 starters at those schools? And that comes out to about just a hair under 3,000 players. So there's roughly 3,000 starting players, starting football players, starters in the FBS level. And they had to narrow it down to the top 100 players overall. So it's an unenviable task. And obviously there's going to be just a mountain of subjectivity. But if I were going to look at a couple of players who maybe aren't on that list today that could find themselves on that list by the end of the season, a very obvious answer would be Garrett Nussmeier. And look, Nuss is a guy who we all know. He's waited his turn. He can make all the throws. And quite honestly, the fact that Garrett Nussmeier is among the Heisman odds favorites certainly is a testament what LSU has become. I mean, this place was a quarterback graveyard for a decade where, my goodness, from the Jordan Jefferson and Jarrett Lee years to a little pop there was Zach Mettenberger. And then, my goodness, you went with Anthony Jennings and Brandon Harris and Danny Etling. And even when you had guys with some ability, Les Miles' offenses just weren't going to throw the football and stretch the field. And that, of course, all changed with Joe Burrow. And now you've had 2 Heisman Trophy winners. And ultimately, the odds makers are looking, saying, we're just going to give LSU the benefit of the doubt because we're not going to get burned on another long shot LSU quarterback in that offense with all those talented wide receivers who's going to go throw for 3,500 yards and 30 touchdowns and, win a dozen games and be in the Heisman mix. So Nussmeier, of course, could be in that mix by the end of the season. He's just got to go prove it. There were, a handful of SEC quarterbacks on that list. The name, though, that I'm most interested in, and it's not new, it's someone I've shared with you. It's Mason Taylor. A week ago, Jordan Reed, who's an NFL draft analyst over at ESPN, put out a list of the top players for next year's draft at 10 different positions. And he had Mason Taylor as the number 1 tight end in the draft for this coming spring. And, I look at Mason Taylor from this past season. When he had 36 receptions, that's a solid season by really any tight end standard. But what sort of affected Mason Taylor is what affected everybody else that saw their production drop. And it was just the fact that Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas were so dominant and so unguardable that they just gobbled up so much of the targets and the attempts and the yardage and the catches and the touchdowns. Malik Neighbors had 89 catches for almost 1,600 yards. Brian Thomas had 68 catches for 1,100 yards, just under 1,200 yards. Mason Taylor had 36 for 348 in the score. And look, he did spend part of last season injured, but I look at the 160 some odd catches that Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas had combined. That's got to go somewhere. And yeah, Kyron Lacey might go from 30 to 60 this year, and CJ Daniels maybe a 50, 60 catch guy. Well, you're still talking about another 50 receptions that have to go somewhere, and maybe 40 of them go to Chris Hilton, and you divvy them up in other spots. But I think it's totally plausible that Mason Taylor could go from 36 catches to 46 or 50 catches. We certainly see it in the scrimmages that LSU runs often. And, it's worth mentioning, just if you're looking at sort of a gauge, a barometer. In 2019, Thad Moss set the LSU tight end record for receptions and receiving yards in a season. 47 catches, 570 yards. He had 4 touchdowns as well. He bested the numbers that were set by David LaFleur back in 1996. So Mason Taylor had 30 catches a year ago. Is it plausible to think he could get to 50 this year? I think so. Could he have 50 catches for 600 yards? I think that's very doable for Mason Taylor over the course of potentially 13 games. You'd be talking about 4 catches a game, 3 to 4 catches a game right there. And I think it's a very reasonable number considering they're going to target Mason Taylor. He's going to be a very effective part of this offense and an intentional part of the offense. And he's healthy and he's gotten bigger. He's 255 pounds right now. So yeah, I think if there's a guy that's not on that list today who could find himself on the list by the end of the season, it's probably junior tight end Mason Taylor. Okay, y'all, that's going to do it for us here on this Friday edition of Locked On LSU. Thanks for making us your first listen. Now, go check out Locked On College Football. From NIL deals to the never-ending conference realignment rumors, my buddy Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to Locked On College Football in the description, so you don't even need to search for it. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. By the way, I did record an interview with Spencer for an LSU prediction and preview that should, I believe, air early next week, maybe Monday. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not. And while you're at it, subscribe to Locked On LSU. If you're on podcast, thank you so much. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a video. And remember, tell a friend if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.